Hello everyone, I welcome you to my YouTube channel Professor Civil Mandal. Here I speak about civil engineering and you will find my various video lectures on various topics of civil engineering over here. So we are moving on to the next chapter. This is on the flow through the pipes, and this is further application of the Bernoulli's principle, or you can say this is another application of the fluid dynamics. So we had read about the flow measurement in the last two videos. You can check those videos too if you haven't visited them. Next, after completing that, we are now here about to study about the flow through the pipes. To study the flow through the pipes, let us first go through the Reynolds experiments, where Reynolds discovered that the occurrence of a laminar and the turbulent flow was governed by the relative magnitude of the inertia and viscous forces. He related the inertia to viscous force and arrived at a dimensionless parameter, and that is known as Reynolds number, and it is represented by Re, and it is the ratio of inertia force that to the viscous force. So Reynolds, in his experiments, he came through a discovery that the laminar and turbulent flow will be governed by the relative magnitude of the inertia force and the viscous force. That is, the ratio of the inertia force to that of the viscous force will give us a parameter, and it is a dimensionless parameter. Keep it in mind, and this we know as popularly Reynolds number. Now, according to the second law of motion, inertia force, that is, suppose Fi is equal to mass times acceleration. We all know about the Newton's second law of motion, where force is directly proportional to mass and acceleration. Now, Fi can be written as like this. Mass can be written as the product of density and the volume. Volume is suppose L cube, and the acceleration is length upon t square, that is distance upon time square, and thus we get Fi as rho L square V square. Similarly, viscous force is given by tau times the area, and which is also further mu dV upon dy times L square. Area is L square, and thus we can write that, or let's write dV upon dy as capital V, and thus the ratio is somewhat like this: rho L square V square upon mu VL, and thus on simplifying we get Reynolds number as Re is equal to rho VL upon mu, where let's learn about the significances of the terms. L is the length or the characteristic length. Suppose we are considering a particular pipe or a channel, the length that we will be considering, that length will be taken here, and therefore it is the characteristic length. V is the mean velocity of flow through that pipe or the channel. Rho is the mass density of the fluid, and mu is the dynamic viscosity of the fluid. So these four parameters, that is L, V, rho and mu, are needed to get the Reynolds number. The limiting value of Reynolds number for various kinds of flow is given in this particular table. So suppose we have flow through the pipes, and if the Reynolds number is less than 2000, the type of flow is laminar. If it is from within 2000 to 4000, it is transition flow, and if it is greater than 4000, it is turbulent. So if the Reynolds number for a pipe comes out to be less than 2000, then we will say that it is laminar, and if it is greater than 4000, we will say it is turbulent. And if at any case it lies between 2000 and 4000, we will say that the flow has got a transition flow, like it is partially laminar and it is just transiting from laminar to some turbulent flow. Similarly, flow between parallel plates, suppose we have two parallel plates and we do have a flow in between them. If the Reynolds number is less than 1000, the flow is laminar, and if it is greater than 2000 it is turbulent. It is transition if it is within 1000 and 2000. And finally, for the flow in wide open channel, if the Reynolds number is less than 500 then it is laminar, if greater than 1000 then it is turbulent, and if it is within 500 to 1000 then the flow is transition. So next is the laws of liquid friction. For laminar flow, the proportional to the velocity of flow, it is independent of pressure. The proportional to the area of the surface in contact, independent to the nature of the surface in contact, greatly affected by the variation of the temperature of the flowing fluid, and affected by density of the fluid. So the fluid friction depends upon these 6 parameters for a laminar flow. If the flow is laminar, you can say the fluid friction depends upon the velocity of flow, it is independent to the pressure and proportional to the area of the surface in contact. Again, it is independent of the nature of surface in contact, and greatly affected by variation of temperature of the flowing fluid, and affected by the density. So it is affected by the velocity, area of surface in contact, variation of temperature of the flowing fluid, and the density of the fluid. What it does not depend on is the nature of the surface. It doesn't depend on the nature of the surface. Also, it doesn't depend on the pressure. Next, for the turbulent flow, the fluid friction is proportional to the velocity to the power n. Means it will be velocity, that the friction will be directly proportional to the velocity raised to some power. Suppose n can be any value from 1.72 to 2, and this is independent of pressure too, just like the laminar flow, and it is proportional to the density of the fluid flow. It is also slightly affected by the variation of temperature, whereas for a laminar flow it was greatly affected by the variation of the temperature. And again, both of them are also affected by the density of the fluid flow. Though turbulent flow is proportional to the density of the fluid flow, but for the laminar flow it is just affected by density of fluid, but it is not mentioned that whether it is directly proportional or inversely proportional, and it is proportional to the area of the surface in contact and dependent on the nature of the surface in contact. But for laminar flow, the fluid friction was independent of the nature of the surface in contact, but for turbulent flow it does depend on the nature of the surface in contact. So next let us come to the important topic, that is types of energy losses in fluid flow in pipes. So it is seen that if suppose a fluid is flowing from here and it is coming out from here, the total energy at this point may not be equal to the total energy at this point. What it is seen, the energy at 2 is somewhat lesser than that of the energy at 1, or you can say that the energy at 1 is greater than that of energy at 2. So as you know that energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, so there must be some losses of energy, or energy that might be flowing out or must be going on to some different purpose, for which we are getting a lesser amount of energy on site 2. So the energy, there is some kind of energy losses in fluid flow in pipes. The losses can be of two types. One is the major loss, and other is the minor loss. Major loss is only due to friction. Major loss is due to the friction in the pipe material, and minor loss can be due to many reasons, like sudden enlargement, like the pipe is suddenly enlarged, or sudden contraction, like the pipe is suddenly contracted, or at the entrance of the pipe or at the exit of the pipe in certain bends, And even at the pipe fittings, like you have angle joint or T joint, at different pipe fittings there is some loss of energy, and also if a nozzle is fitted. So first let us start with the major losses in pipes, and this is caused by the frictional resistance, and it was computed by Sir Darcy Weisbach, and therefore we need to derive the Darcy-Weisbach equation, which will be helpful for us to determine the friction factor or the coefficient of friction that is solely responsible for the major losses in pipes. So we are given with a pipe with which has pressure P1 at this section 1, and at section 2 it has pressure P2, and this is the direction of the flow, and V1 is the velocity at section 1 and V2 is the velocity at section 2. Now just if the fluid is flowing in this direction, so therefore at the walls of the pipe there will be some friction acting in this direction, as friction is the opposing force. So I am taking F1 as the frictional force, and let us also take that L is the length between the two sections 1 and 2. Now F dash is a parameter, that is the frictional resistance per unit weighted area per unit velocity. So it is the frictional resistance per unit weighted area per unit velocity. Alright, so we will get about that soon. And HF is the head loss due to the friction. So now let's apply the Bernoulli's equation, and also suppose that D is the diameter of the pipe and A is the area. So on applying the Bernoulli's equation, it will be P1 upon rho g plus V1 square upon 2g plus Z1 is equal to P2 upon rho g plus V2 square upon 2g plus Z2 plus, let us consider HF as the head loss. So now since Z1 is equal to Z2, I will cancel out Z1 and Z2 because both of them are at the same datum height. So for being Z1 equal to Z2, I will cancel them out, and thus the datum will have no significance in this particular equation. So now I can write that let us suppose also that the velocity V1 is also equal to V2, because the diameter is again uniform, and since the area is uniform, so Q is equal to A1 V1 equal to A2 V2, and since area is same, thus the velocities will also be similar. So also V1 is equal to V2, I will also cancel out this particular terms. So we are remaining with HF is equal to P1 upon rho g minus P2 upon rho g. So the above loss of head due to this loss of head due to friction, that is HF, shows that there will be loss of head due to the friction, or the intensity of pressure will be dropped in the direction of the flow. So you can see there is a pressure drop, and this head loss is mainly due to the pressure loss. And also we are considering this HF as the due to the major loss, that is friction. So now frictional resistance that is, suppose frictional resistance is equal to friction per unit width or per unit weighted area per unit velocity which is this term, f dash, and multiplied by, so this is the frictional resistance, and it is multiplied by the, because it is the weighted area per unit velocity, I will multiply it with the weighted area and the velocity square. Thus f1 will be equal to f dash times pi dl times v square, or we can write that f dash times pi dl will be written as, suppose I am writing it as p times l times v square. Suppose if p is the perimeter and it is equal to pi d, if I am taking p as the perimeter and it is equal to pi d. Now we will consider the forces that is acting between 1 1 and 1 2, that is the pressure forces. Suppose, so the force acting at 1 1 is, suppose the force at 1 is equal to, suppose P1A, and the force at 2 is equal to, suppose P2A. This is a pressure force, that is P1 times area and P2 times area. And thus I can write that P1A minus P2A minus F1, because F1 is the head loss, is equal to 0, right? Because P1A minus P2A is equal to F1, that is the loss due to the friction, and I can write it like this, that P1A minus P2A minus F1 is equal to 0. So now let's take P1 minus P2A together on one side and put F1 on the other side and write F1 is equal to, suppose PLV square. So I will write it as F dash PLV square, or P1 minus P2 is equal to F dash PLV square upon the area. Or let us take that P1 minus P2 is rho G HF, right? Because HF is the head loss, and in that terms it will be rho G HF. Or you can say that P1 minus rho G, P1 by rho G minus P2 upon rho G is equal to HF, and from here you can write P1 minus P2 is equal to rho G HF. So I'll use this thing over here, and I will write rho G HF is equal to F dash PL V square upon area. Now I'll write HF equal to F dash upon rho G times P upon A times L times V square, or HF can be written as F dash upon rho G times pressure upon area can be written as 4 by D times L times V square. It is because, note one thing, that P by A I have replaced it with 4 by D. So P by A will be equal to, P is suppose pi D, that is the perimeter, and upon the area is pi d square upon 4. So upon simplifying this, I will get it as 4 by d. So I have written that 4 by d here, and on writing 4 by d over here, again I will simplify it as f dash upon rho g times 4 L v square upon d. And now let's take that f dash upon rho g is equal to f by 2, where suppose f is the coefficient of friction. So if f is the coefficient of friction and 4f dash is the friction factor, so let's replace f dash upon rho g with f and f by 2, and it will be like hf is equal to 4f upon 2g times lv square upon d, and I can write it as hf equal to 4f l v square upon 2gd. This is my friction. This is the head loss due to the friction, and this is my Darcy-Weisbach equation. Darcy-Weisbach equation is commonly used to determine the loss of head due to the friction in pipes, and thus it can be obtained by this HF. And if we are using this thing, we can also write another expression for this Darcy-Weisbach equation, and it can be written as HF is equal to FL V square upon 2GD. But note the difference, this F is the coefficient of friction, whereas this F is the friction factor. So it will be depending upon the experiment or the problem which we are doing. If we are using friction factor to calculate the head loss, then we will use this formula, and if we are using the coefficient of friction to obtain the head loss, then we will use this formula, which is 4FLV square upon 2GD, and if we have friction factor, the formula will be FLV square upon 2GD. Now let's move on to the minor losses in the pipes. In the minor loss, first we have the sudden enlargement, and the situation can be like this, where you have a pipe and it had certain diameter, and at a point there is a sudden change in the diameter of the pipe, or you can say the diameter has increased suddenly. So we have to find the loss in this place due to this sudden enlargement. So now let us consider this diagram. P1 and V1 is the pressure at section 1, which is at the diameter, which is at the pipe with lesser diameter, and at section 2 is at the pipe with a larger diameter, and V2 and P2 are the velocity and pressure at that section 2. And now the fluid particles near the wall, due to their low kinetic energy, cannot overcome this adverse pressure hill in the direction of the flow, and hence they follow up the reverse path like this. You can see they are following up the reverse path, and under the favorable pressure gradient from P2 to P1. So this creates a zone of recirculating. It's like a whirling recirculation you will be seeing over here, and the turbulent eddies or thus will be formed, and eddies are the opposite flushes of water which actually cause a resistance to the flow, and near the wall of the larger tube it can be seen, and abrupt changes of cross section thus results in the loss of energy. And from Newton's second law of motion, Newton's second law of motion, we can write at P1 A1, that is the pressure force at A1, plus P2 A2 dash minus A1, sorry, P dash A2 minus A1 minus P2 A2. So basically P2 P dash is the pressure due to the eddies over here, and if this area is A1 and if this area is A2, so this can be obtained by A2 minus A1. So therefore the pressure force at that place is P dash A2 minus A1, and so both these will be taken up by A2 minus A1 and also minus P2 A2, that is the pressure force at section 2, and this will be equal to rho Q V2 minus V1. This is from the Newton's second law of motion, and this is the change in the mass velocity flow, and rho times the volume times the velocity will thus give us the change in the momentum, and this is the mass. Rho Q is the mass of this particular fluid, density times the Q is the flow through the pipe. Suppose this Q is the flow through the pipe, and thus this is the mass flow rate times V2 minus V1. Thus we are satisfying the Newton's second law of motion, that is the change in the force is due to the change in the momentum, and thus we can solve it by, like, suppose let us just consider that this P dash is quite similar to P1 because they are so close to each other, so there won't be any such difference, so that you can just say that the difference between P dash and P1 is negligible. So we will consider that P dash is equal to P1, and we will again write the equation as P1 A1 plus P1 times A2 dash minus A1 minus P2 A2 is equal to rho Q V2 minus V1, and on simplifying this it will be P1 minus P2 times A2, and that is equal to rho Q V2 minus V1. So thus we are getting it that P1 minus P2 times A2 is equal to rho Q V2 minus E1. So let's apply the Bernoulli's principle in both the sections 1 and 2. So it will be like P1 upon gamma plus, or you can even write P1 upon rho g. I am writing here P1 upon gamma minus V1 square upon 2g plus Z1 is equal to P2 upon gamma plus V2 square upon 2g plus Z2 plus HL. And now Z1 is equal to Z2 because they are at the same datum altitude, and thus HL is equal to P1 minus P2 upon gamma plus V1 square minus V2 square upon 2g. Now we cannot say that the V1 and V2 is similar like we did in the previous example of Darcy-Weisbach equation, because V1 and V2 won't be similar because the area of cross section is different in both the sections. So therefore V1 and V2 will have separate values. So now let's consider this as equation 1 and this as equation 2. So from equation 1 and 2 we get that HL can be written as P1 minus P2, we can write it as P1 minus P2 is equal to rho Q V2 minus V1 upon A2. So HL will be equal to P1 minus P2. So P1 minus P2 is replaced by rho Q V2 minus V1 upon A2 gamma plus V1 square minus V2 square upon 2G, right? So now this can be written as equal to rho let's multiply V2 and we get that V2 times V2 minus V1 upon A2 won't be there because gamma plus V1 square minus V2 square upon 2G, because I am neglecting Q upon A2. So Q is equal to A2 V2 and thus V2 will be equal to Q upon A2. So I am replacing Q upon A2 with V2. A2 won't be there and thus it is the equation. And now HL will be again written as, HL can be now written as 2V2 square on simplifying the previous equation, 2V2 square minus 2V1 V2 plus V1 square minus V2 square upon 2G, or HL is equal to V1 minus V2 square upon 2G, because on simplifying we will get this as V1 minus V2 square upon 2G, because 2V2 square and minus V2 square will become V2 square only, and thus it will be V1 minus V2 square upon 2G. So the loss due to sudden expansion can also be expressed as, so just let's consider that this is our loss due to the sudden expansion, and it can also be expressed as HL is equal to V1 minus V2 whole square upon 2G. It can also be written as V1 square upon 2G. Let's take it outside the bracket, then it will be like 1 minus V2 upon V1 square inside the bracket, and HL will be equal to V1 square upon 2G. Let's write now Q is equal to A1 V1 equal to A2 V2, right? So I can write V1 is equal to Q upon A1 and V2 is equal to Q upon A2. So V2 upon V1 can be written as A1 upon A2. From here I can write it like this, and it's square, and let us take this term as K, and thus HL can be written as K V1 square upon 2G, or you can write it as KL V1 square upon 2G, where I'll say that KL is a constant of proportionality, or simply it's a coefficient of head loss due to sudden expansion. Talk about the sudden contraction. This is another form of minor loss, and this an abrupt contraction in geometry of the pipe will be seen, and the reverse of it is basically the reverse of an abrupt enlargement, which we studied in the previous topic. So now the streamlines cannot follow the abrupt change of geometry, like this will not be like this. The streamlines will however follow somewhat this type pattern. You can see the patterns, the dotted lines which I have drawn, and the streamlines which will follow somewhat this kind of pattern. So it's like it will not follow and drip upon this wall, it will follow this particular streamline flows only, and thus we will have the minimum of the flow or almost negligible flow of the liquid in this 4 spaces, 1 2 3 and 4. These 4 spaces will have almost negligible flow of the liquid. And also I have represented two cross sections, 1 and 2, and here one another cross section, that is C, and A1 is the area of A, A2 is the area of A1 is the area of 1 and A2 is the area of 2, but for C the area will be AC, which is different than A1 and A2, because what fluid or water won't flow in this region. The velocity of the flow in the converging part of the stream tube from 11 to 11 to cc can be, you can say that it is one kind of vena contracta, and increases due to the continuity, and the pressure decreases in the direction of the flow, and as the pressure decreases you will say that the velocity will also increase in this part. And in an accelerating flow under a favorable pressure gradient, losses due to the separation cannot take place. But in decelerating part of the flow from section CC to section 22, where the stream tube expands to fill the pipe, losses take place in the similar fashion as occur in the case of a sudden geometrical enlargement. So hence the eddies are formed between the vena contracta CC and the section 22. So the eddies will be formed over somewhere over here. The flow pattern after the vena contracta is similar to that of an abrupt enlargement, you can see that, and the loss of head is thus defined between section CC to section 22. Therefore it can be said that the losses due to contraction is not for the contraction itself, but due to the expansion followed by the contraction, right? You can see that there's a sudden expansion, gradual expansion, and then again there is a contraction. So now we know that HL was equal to KL times V2 square upon 2G, what we obtained in the previous equation. And now let's write that HL is equal to Vc minus V2 square upon 2G, because the whole contraction phenomenon will be mainly taking place in this place, not in these places. So I'll write it as Vc minus V2 square upon 2G, and it can also be written as V2 square upon 2G times Vc upon V2 minus 1 whole square. So now by continuity equation, that is AC Vc is equal to A2 V2, and AC you can say the area of the vena contracta, and Vc is the velocity at vena contracta, and thus Vc by V2 can be written as A2 by AC, or let us say that it is equal to 1 upon Cc, where Cc you can say as coefficient of contraction. So now HL is equal to KL V2 square upon 2G, or simply you can write K V2 square upon 2G, because we used KL for enlargement, K V2 square upon 2G, and it can also be written as 1 upon Cc minus 1 times V2 square upon 2G. So this is the head loss due to sudden contraction. Cc is the coefficient of contraction. Certain more losses whose derivations are not required at this point. Maybe we just go by the formulas and that will be enough for us. and first one is the head loss at entrance, and it is HL equal to 0.5 v square upon 2g, where v is the velocity of flow in the particular pipe. So if the velocity is the velocity is v in the particular pipe, then I'll say that 0.5 v square upon 2g is lost at the entrance. So at the exit it will be v square upon 2g, where again v is the velocity at the outlet of the pipe. So at the outlet, if we have a velocity v in a pipe where the liquid is flowing, so I'll say that v square upon 2g is the head loss at the exit. Now due to the obstruction of pipe, so whenever there will be an obstruction of pipe, loss of head will take place due to the reduction of the area basically. So suppose this is the pipe, and suppose here is some obstruction in the pipe, suppose some kind of dirt or any stone is there, or a floating body is there, or a body whose density is quite similar to the fluid in it, and it is just creating some hindrance over here. So you can say that the reduction of the cross section will be taken place, because the liquid will be flowing only through this much area only, and there will be the sudden enlargement of the area of flow beyond the obstruction, and due to this reason there will be a head loss. So it is given by the equation v square upon 2g times a upon cc times a minus 1 whole square, where v is the velocity of the fluid flow in the pipe, and a is the area of the pipe, and small a is the area of the obstruction, that is the cross sectional area of the obstruction. cc is the coefficient of contraction. Now at the bend, suppose there is a bend in the pipe, the loss will be given by kv square upon 2g, where you can say that v is the velocity of the flow in that particular pipe, and k is the coefficient of bend, and the value of k will depend upon the radius of angle of bend and the radius of curvature, and this value will be given to us in the question. Also, loss of head due to various pipe fittings, again k is the coefficient of the bend or the coefficient of the fitting, v square is the v is the velocity of the fluid flowing, and thus this will be the head loss due to the various pipe fittings. So this is the formula is quite similar to that of the bend, but the case do have some different significance. So let's just practice some problems regarding the losses in a pipe. So in this question, an oil of specific gravity 0.9 and viscosity 0.06 poise is flowing through a pipe of diameter 200 at the rate 60 liter per second. Discharge is given, diameter is given, specific gravity of the fluid and the viscosity of the fluid is given. We are asked to find the loss due to the friction for a 500 meter length of pipe, and also find the power required to maintain this flow. So we know the head loss due to friction is HF equal to 4 FL V square upon 2GD. Now F is not given to us, so F, to finding the value of F, that is the coefficient of friction, we have a formula. F is equal to 0.079 upon RE to the power 1 by 4. Keep it in mind. Then to get the value of F, we have a formula 0.079 upon RE to the power 1 by 4, and using this we can get the value of this coefficient of friction. So now RE is equal to rho VD upon mu, we all know it. Given to us, density is equal to 0.9 times 1000, which is equal to 900 kg per meter cube, because 0.9 is given as the specific gravity. Also velocity can be obtained by discharge upon area. Discharge is given as 60 liters per second. It can be written as 0.06 meter cube per second upon the area is pi by 4 times. Diameter is given as 200 mm and it can be written as 0.2 meters and its whole square. Thus the velocity is given by 1.91 meters per second. And now after getting the velocity, the diameter we know is given by 200 mm and that is equal to 0.2 meters, and viscosity mu is given by 0.06 poise and it is equal to 0.06 upon 10 Newton second per meter square, because 1 Newton second per meter square is equal to 10 poise. So Reynolds number Re will be equal to rho is 900 times velocity v is given by 1.91 times d diameter is given by 0.2 upon mu is given by 0.06 upon 10. Thus Re will be equal to 57300. And so you can say that it is a flow through a pipe and we have a Re 57300 which is greater than 4000, so Re can be said as a turbulent flow. So if we had something in the question, determine the type of flow. If we are asked to determine the type of flow, suppose we could say that the type of flow is a turbulent flow. Now after we got Re, thus F will be equal to 0.079 upon 57300 whole to the power 1 by 4, and thus it is equal to 0.0051. Thus the friction factor HF is given by this formula and it is 4 times F is 0.0051 times length is given as 500 meter times velocity is given as 1.91 square upon 2 times 9.81 times diameter is 0.2, and thus we will get the answer as 9.48 meters of water. We'll get the answer in terms of meter because it is a head and head loss is represented in meter. Now in the next part, find the power required to maintain this flow. Now power, you know that I'll write it over here, the solution for the power. P is equal to rho g q times hf upon 1000. So it is equal to 900 times 9.81 times q is given by q is 0.06 times hf is 9.48 times 1000, and thus we will get it as answer will be equal to 5.02 in kilowatts. So this is the power. So in this question, water flows through a pipeline whose dia varies from 20 cm to 10 cm in a length of 10 meter. So here's a pipeline whose dia varies from 20 cm to 10 cm in a length of 10 meter. If the Darcy-Weisbach friction factor is assumed constant at 0.02 for the whole pipe, determine the head loss in friction when the pipe is flowing full with a discharge of 500 liters per second. So in this case we don't have a defined cross section, so let us consider that there's a section of thickness dx at a distance of x from this section 1, that is at 20 centimeter. So the head loss, let's take the head loss at the strip is dhx, suppose dhfx, and it is equal to f times, instead of L I will use dx, and that is dx v square upon 2g. This one is capital D. So let's take, I am taking this as the equation considering f as the friction factor, because in question it is asked that friction factor is assumed constant at 0.02. So I am taking this formula, not the formula that is 4FL v square upon 2GD, not using that, because f is coefficient of friction over there. This is the friction factor equation, that is FL v square upon 2GD. So and in place I will be using dx. So now it can be written as v can be written as, velocity v can be written as, let's suppose write f and dx first. Velocity v can be written as q square upon 2gd times pi by 4 d square, and thus on simplifying this it can be written as f dx q square upon, or f q square dx upon 2g times pi by 4 times d to the power 5. And now what is d? D is equal to 20 minus 10, right? This different change is 20 minus 10 upon 10 times x. The value of d will be something like this, and it is equal to, suppose, 20 minus x by 100 meter. So therefore dhfx is equal to, suppose on simplifying all this I will get it as 0.08263 f q square times 10 to the power 10 dx upon 20 minus x to the power 5, and substituting the value of f and q, f is 0.02 and q is given 500 liters per second, that is 0.5 meter square per second, meter cube per second. So it is equal to 0.08263 times 0.02 times 0.5 square times 10 to the power 10 dx upon 20 minus x to the power 5, and this can be simplified as 41315 dx upon 20 minus x to the power 5, 20 minus x whole to the power 5. I am writing it over here, dx upon 20 minus x whole to the power 5, and thus if this is 4135 multiplied by dx upon 20 minus x to the power 5, therefore total head loss HF is equal to 0 to 10, because length is from 0 to 10, 10 meter is the length, DHFX is equal to 41315. This is a constant term, so it will be coming out of the integral 0 to 10 20 minus x, and this will be to the power minus 5 times dx. So on solving this integration, the value will be coming as 0.968 meters. A 150 mm dia pipe reduces in dia abruptly to 100 mm. So it is something like this, from 150 to 100 it is getting reduced abruptly. If the pipe carries a discharge of 3 liter per second of water, 30 liter per second of water, calculate the pressure loss across the contraction. Take coefficient of contraction as Cc is equal to 0.6. So now let's calculate the velocities at A1 and V1, and the velocities can be obtained as V1 is equal to Q upon A1, and that is equal to Q is given 30 liter per second, it can be written as 0.03 meter cube per second divided by A1. The diameter is given 150 mm, so the area will be pi by 4 times the diameter, that is 0.15 meter square, and thus V1 is equal to 1.697 meters per second. Similarly, V2 is equal to Q upon A2, and that is equal to 0.03 meter cube per second upon pi by 4 times dia is 0.1 square, 100 mm, and thus the velocity here at 2 is 3.82 meter per second. So here it is V1, here it is V2. So now let's apply the Bernoulli's equation, that is P1 upon rho g plus V1 square upon 2g plus Z1 is equal to P2 upon rho g plus V2 square upon 2g plus Z2, plus let's consider head loss due to contraction as HLC. Now Z1 is equal to Z2, as the datum height is same, so Z1 and Z2 can be neglected, and thus also HLC is equal to V2 square upon 2g times 1 upon Cc minus 1. This is the head loss due to contraction, that is equal to, so now it is V2 is 3.82 square upon 2 times 9.81 times 1 upon Cc is 0.6 minus 1, and thus HLC is equal to 0.33 meters is the head loss due to contraction. So now let's substitute the values here, and let's write P1 upon rho g plus V1 is 1.697 square upon 2 times 9.81 is equal to P2 upon rho g plus 3.82 square upon 2 times 9.81 plus 0.33. So P1 minus P2 upon rho g is equal to P1 minus P2 upon rho g is equal to 0.9271, and thus P1 minus P2 is rho g times 0.9271 is equal to 0.909 newtons per centimeter square. So the pressure loss across the contraction is 0.909 centimeter square, Newton per centimeter square. So that was all regarding the first part of the flow through pipes, and this was all about the major and minor losses in the pipes. In the next part of the video we will start regarding the hydraulic gradient line and total energy line. So till then, like and share my video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Thank you.